Thanks for tuning in as the first time ever for the first show ever of Druids of Doom, and we're sitting here ready to talk to you about some albums, some concerts, some life lessons, and in the between time and meantime, we're gonna try not to shit our pants as we're flying by the seat of ours right now. Well, let's see. Let's maybe start with this inaugural episode and just catch everybody up with some of the shows that we've recently been going to. And if there's no qualm, I'll just start by bringing up an absolute smoldering act out of Washington by the name of Hulder. And Hulder is a unique band. Have you dabbled in Hulder?
You told me about them, and they're on my punch list, but I have not listened to them yet.
Well, Hulder's kind of a unique act because, heavy metal is kind of, I wouldn't say it's the most diverse genre, either racially or even with how people identify, and I'm hoping it gets better at that, in the years to come, but Hulder is a one-woman black metal outfit.
Oh, shit, it's
absolutely
one
crushing.
woman? I remember you saying it was a... I remember you saying it was I thought you said woman fronted, but I did not know you said it was a one woman gig. That's bananas.
Absolutely. So she hails from Washington, and I took a peek at the old metal archives, and it looks like she's under $20 spin, which I feel like everything I'm listening to right now is being put out by $20 spin. I think if I look back, I can't remember a label being on a run quite like this since, I don't know, like in the early aughts. There is this label Willowtip, maybe they're still around, where they put out a lot of good shit. Unique Leader Records has had a crazy amount of technical death metal talent, but $20 spin right now, over the last 3 or 4 years, it's like if they put something out, I'm going to listen to it. Hulder, she's wild because if you go check out her profile on Metal Archives, I love my black metal to have some mystique around it. And so if you look up members of the band, it's just Hulder. That's all the information you're going to get. And she's corpse painted. She's got she's in a Renaissance festival looking outfit, which I'm sure is a lot.
Corset type deal thing going on there.
Yeah.
That's fucking brutal.
Full corpse paint. And apparently she must be pretty popular with the young folk, because when I was at this show, and I love seeing it, but a lot of young fans coming in, a lot of women coming. That was always good to see for a metal show. And here's what I was kind of taken aback by. A lot of fucking corpse paint. A lot of corpse paint.
Yeah, dude.
And it takes like a dedicated fan to fucking... If you painted your face, like what's a band that could get you to paint your face?
Oh, man. Probably... I'm not gonna lie, like if Metalocalypse came to, or Deathclaw came to town, just as one of those silly ass cartoon live shows or whatever, I would probably paint it for that. But I mean, truth be told, I don't know if I don't know if any other band would really get me to paint my face like that. But
well, as I was thinking about this show and just trying to squeeze out the most horrendous shit of the past 3 days, I was thinking to myself, who would I possibly paint my face for? And I gotta be honest with you, Kiss is probably the only band I would consider. I would, and I'm not even a huge... Well, you're gonna groan and talk to me about Metalocalypse. So with Kiss, I feel like that's their whole shtick, and I probably wouldn't paint my face for really anybody. So if I had to do it, it'd be something like that. Maybe Behemoth. I don't know.
I didn't even think of them. I potentially do it for them.
But I feel like, face painting is kind of like a European black metal thing too, and I feel like those bands don't come here too often. They don't come stateside too often. It's mostly the American black metal bands, and they're always more about walking through the woods and burning sage.
I mean, there's nothing wrong with that either. But I would like to see some corpse paint. That would be pretty wild to see, because I think out of all the shows that we've been to, I haven't seen anybody with corpse paint on or anything like that.
Well, I mean, the thing that was wild is you had I feel like 16-year-olds at this show and people in their early 20s and all corpse painted out. And I was like, we went to this thing and there was 8 people in there to start. And I would say of those 8, 6 lived in basements. And I was looking around and I was starting to get a little bit worried. Like, this is the same old mildewy smell I'm used to at some of these smaller shows. And I was nervous. But you know what? It was an intimate setting, and in the venue, by the time, 10 minutes before the opener, Skeleton came on, it was packed. And Hulder, man, I wish you were there, because even though they were a black metal band, it was just rampant headbanging. Like, they slowed down, they had a good tempo. Yeah, it was there was a dark energy at that show, and it was palpable. So I had a great time with that. Also at that show, Skeleton, young death metal band. Have you ever dabbled in the old Skeleton?
Yes, you've told me about them. I feel like I have them. I do have them on my my metal playlist that I've listened to.
Skeleton were one of these bands, like, I always have an infinite amount of respect. If you can physically do this, you're on the next level, but a drummer who can sing. And that's what they had.
That shit blows my mind, because not only do you have to manage 2 different legs, 2 different arms, and keeping beat for the rest of the band, now you have to add lyrics on top of that. That's bananas. That is on a scale of comprehension that it's insane. It's insane. And I know some other bands.
If you're Tommy Lee, you got to try to manage 3 legs. Ho!
Hell! Oh, man. Yeah, I don't know how they do that, man.
Yeah, it's different kind of brain, absolutely built, wired differently. But their drummer is handling all of the vocal duties. It's a 3-piece outfit, which I should also mention. Looks like they're out of Austin, Texas, and I thought this was kind of funny. I didn't realize this before I saw them, but it looks like a pair of brothers, David and Victor Zelkowski. So, a couple of nice Polish boys decided to sit down and make a death metal band. I think they're Polish. They might be, I don't know, some kind of Slavic origin, but that's splitting hairs. Not trying to take anything away from the Poles. They do some good death metal.
It does sound like a pretty Polish name, though.
But the young band, the guitarist, I would not be surprised if he just got his permit to drive. Like, very fresh faced. And I'll just say this about Skeleton. If you ever hear this, unlikely. Look, I enjoy you at home, and I was really looking forward to seeing you. You didn't let me down, but I'll say this. It just seemed like they played really tight. Like, their songs were landing well, but they weren't giving them any space to breathe. So, for example, they'd play a track, and, the crowd doesn't really know that they're supposed to cheer, because there was literally no interaction with the fans the entire show. They're just kind of like, finish the song, and everyone just kind of seemed unsure of themselves, and they would just go into, like, the next song with, like, no real pomp and circumstance. And I need a little pomp and circumstance with a live show.
Sure.
So, but we both, my buddy who's obviously not here, we both agree that's a band. They got room to grow. We think they got a future. I'm definitely going to catch them again. But Hulder, oh my God, they were unreal. And they were getting, I asked my buddy, like, is it just me, or are we seeing something here, like, special? And we both agreed, like, this could be one of those shows we look back and we're like, God damn, I just saw something. For the first time in a while, I'm actually seeing something.
That's crazy, man. So I imagine, since it's normally just like a one-piece, like, woman project, that she's got some session musicians for this. And
I was really curious about that. I'll say this. I certainly don't think that she just, like, walked into a Denny's and tried to pick the first long-haired Knuckle Dragon line cook to say, hey, I need you to play some sick riff. But I'll say this. Whoever she got, whether they're somebody she knew beforehand, they all brought a lot of energy. Like, they all headbang. I mean, I'm 38. I'm watching these 4, I think there's 4 people, but I'm watching them just bang out. And I'm like, God damn, if their necks aren't just, like, missing a disc in the morning. But you know what? I'm an old curmudgeon at this point. They were banging out hard. These, if they're session musicians, if they're friends, they rock the fuck out. And Hulder, this is, I wanted to almost even message her. I was so disappointed. Like, she had the crowd eating out of the palm of her hand by the end of it. And unceremoniously, the entire band just, like, evaporated at the end of the set. Like, they just walked off. The whole crowd, we completely expected an encore. And The crowd chanted for about 4 minutes, and they didn't come back out. And I was so shocked. Like, I thought it was a missed opportunity. I'm certainly not going to poo-poo the performance. It was phenomenal. It was mesmerizing. They had phenomenal energy, and there was grit. But I thought that was a missed opportunity, and that would have taken that show from a 9 to a legendary status for me.
Oh, man.
But that said, I'll look forward to seeing them again. I hope they come through again.
If they come through, I'll definitely have to schlub off some overnight work duties and come to a show, because I'm just hearing you kind of gush and mush about it a little bit. Like, I'm super bummed out that I did not get to go.
Gushing and mushing, absolutely. They were phenomenal, and yeah. So that was the Hulder Skeleton Show. I could talk about Bewitcher, which I saw recently, Municipal Waste.
God, I wanted to go to that
but
show.
I know that
so damn bad.
Oh boy. Oh boy.
I think Castle's dong flying out.
Unforgettable. Wow. Yeah. So I guess this would be a good time to tell people, if you haven't gone to a Municipal Waste show, you're going to see a lot of crowd surfing. There's going to be some spirited moshing, and you might just see a kilted man who decides to take the opportunity to crowd surf and use that opportunity to share his penis with everyone at the show, including the band. Oh my God, the band, what they saw that, and it wasn't like an accidental sort of like dick flopping out. It was full spread eagle, look you deep in the eye.
Which eye are we talking
about? Take a look at well, I hear you. That's the only one of them will be able to make really deep eye contact, if you know what I'm saying. But
God.
So that happened.
Jesus. When you guys told me about that, I was even more upset that I was at work and not there. I was just like, God damn it.
It's like I'm not ashamed of the human form. If I just would like it if I go into a metal show and there is an even distribution of tits and cocks. Yeah. That's all I'm asking for.
Some equality. Some equality amongst the hardware. That's all. Yeah, that's all we really want.
Absolutely. Well, I was struck by several thoughts at that show, and I'll keep it short. You know, Municipal Waste is a band who basically, for me, served as almost the soundtrack of my collegiate years, and we partied our ass off to them in my mid-20s. So they're a fun band. I feel like they were a band who also came along when we needed a new, young, spirited vanguard of bands to come along, and they sort of spearheaded a new revival of thrash, which a lot of their contemporaries did fizzle away, but they never did. They've always been the one to somehow rally and remain consistently strong in the scene. And with the crowd that was there, you could see that there were people from all generations. I actually talk about feeling older now. I saw a few guys who were probably a little bit older than me with their like young teenager at that show, and that's something I would expect to see in the past at like AC/DC or Iron Maiden, but now it's Municipal Waste, and it's this band that I grew up with, and I feel like I've kind of gotten older with, so that was pretty cool.
It's funny you bring that up with the multi-generational crowd of Municipal Waste, because one of the guys at work, he's actually a pretty big metalhead, and he went to that show, and he brought his 15-year-old son. I knew it was an 18-plus show, but he knew one of the security guards, so he kind of like, got him in the back door. And
I see.
So yeah, it was this 47-year-old dude and his 15-year-old son just thrashing out together, and I was just like, that's fucking rad, man. That is so rad.
There's probably a good chance he's one of the ones who's coloring my memory of that. Absolutely.
I mean, he's a heavier set dude with a huge beard and a wicked ass ponytail. I don't know what his son looks like, but I mean, you probably saw like 80 of those like archetypes.
I was just thinking to myself, that's like, yeah, absolutely. That, and like there's like certain archetypes that you'll see at the metal show. So like I would say every 7th guy you see is shaved head with goatee guy. Is that's extremely prevalent. We'll have to at some point talk about like who are the Pokemon of metal shows, like. And when you say got to catch them all, like you just walk in the room like I caught him, like I see every single one of these dudes right now. It's game over. So Municipal, they crushed, but I'll say this, these bands like Municipal Waste are what I consider to be like crossover bands. They're mixing punk and metal, and those bands, they just they're almost untouchable in terms of bringing the intensity to a live show. And that was true for this show. The crowd was raucous. And something that kind of, I think, contributed towards that was they brought along this kind of, what I think is a legendary hardcore band called Integrity. A band I'm not familiar with, but they brought this band Integrity. Now, why am I bringing this up? Hardcore fans are fucking douchebags when it comes to like concert etiquette. And this show is no different. There's always like 6 hardcore fans that start with their bullshit moshing, which, look, if you're a hardcore fan, I like hardcore music too, but I've never understood the goddamn like Karate Kid shit when you're out in the pit or like the flailing around. Like, I'm not trying to take anybody's teeth out when I mosh.
And I also don't want to get my teeth knocked out, like, not on purpose anyway.
That's,
you know what I mean? Like, and don't get me wrong, like, I've been in some pits where like the energy is just completely overwhelming and you do kind of just lose control and you're just like, you know, you're going nuts, but it's not. I think I see where you're coming from. Like, I feel like some of these, like some people when they go into the mosh pits, like that, like you get the impression that they're out to harm. You know what I mean? They're out to fuck something up.
Absolutely. That's the kind of, exactly. That's like the kind of the energy that those fans were bringing. And there's been metal shows, strictly metal shows, where I've run into that too, but few and far between. Generally, it's a camaraderie. You know, if you fall, I'm going to pick your ass up as fast as possible. So, you know, there is that. But Bewitcher were also at this show.
Yeah.
Fucking hell. Bewitcher is a band who I followed them closely. This is the first chance I've had to see them live. Fuck, you would not believe. I can't even, when you see a 3-piece, because by the way, it's 3 guys in Bewitcher that can produce that kind of sound.
Insane.
It always blows my mind. And here's the funny thing is, their performance was so strong. And when my buddy at the show, he turned to me during Integrity set, he's like, can you believe that there's like 5 guys there compared to the sound that the 3 dudes in Bewitcher were able to create? No offense to Integrity. Like, I know they've got some songs, but it's just, it's not so much a poo-poo on Integrity as it is, a feather in the cap of Bewitcher that you can with those 3 guys. Holy shit. And they were over like Grover after every song. Huge reaction. They were getting, if any wrestling fans are out there, they were getting Road Warrior
Hell
pops. Yeah. Like the crowd, they were taking the roof off of that venue. I couldn't get enough. Blistering solos, just music for the devil. Lemmy. If Lemmy was alive, he'd be like, you know what? I may not be able to keep sucking on the Jack Daniels and doing lines of coke like I once did, but there are still bands carrying the torch, and Bewitcher's one of them.
Yeah, they you just like many of the bands you've told me about Bewitcher, and it when you brought up Lemmy, I totally feel like there's like almost like a Motorhead worship to them. You know what I mean? A little bit. They just fucking rip. And the fact that like you alluded to there, it's a 3-piece and they're able to produce the sounds that they're capable of. Like before I looked them up on the Metal Archives, I did not. I would have never believed that they were a 3-piece. I would have said at least a 4-group band or a 4-member band or a 5-member band, easy. But then when I saw it was just 3 guys, I was like, what?
If you get a chance to see Bewitcher, do yourself a favor and do it. You're gonna like what you hear. I guarantee it. These guys, they I don't know if they practice what they preach, but I love like that sort of denim and leather, satanic 80s panic sort of sound. You just can imagine yourself. I could never fucking be like a 1% motorcycler. No. I couldn't be a 99%er either because I can't ride a fucking bike. But if I did, I'd be like, these guys seem like they would be able to narrate the soundtrack of just a war band in a post-apocalyptic, cycle-driven hellscape, riding down in the desert, hunting your ass down, taking your supplies, taking your women. That's Bewitcher. I can't wait to see them again. I might toss my girlfriend at them if I have to. That's how good they are. That's what they deserve. And their merch guy was fantastic too. Like I will always yuck it up with a merch guy or gal and just kind of like get a feel for how the tour is going. I was so pleased to find out that this tour has done very well. Bewitcher's going to be coming back here in about 3 months, and bet your ass I'm going to be there right in the front row, and probably have to bring like some sort of topical ointment for my neck just to
get
prepare.
some Bengay or
Because
some
Jesus.
icy hot ready to rip. No, yeah.
Good God.
I know the end of the year is already looking kind of stacked as far as concerts, so I'm definitely going to be taking some unpaid days for sure, because there's some of these bands I'm definitely not missing at all, for sure. And Bewitcher, I definitely wanted to see these guys. And again, this is another one of those shows where my stupid ass work schedule prevents me from doing it.
You know, it's a shame that the government doesn't make more. Healthcare that'd be wonderful, and free college. But what about acknowledging fucking concerts for us everyday people that need? Look, they say we're just 3 meals at any time from a revolution. No, I'm 3 missed concerts away from a revolution. So give the man some time. Let him go see Bewitcher.
I'm already there, man.
Everything will be all right.
there, baby. I've missed like fucking 6 concerts that I was like, I can't miss the show. And then, bam, missed the show. And tables were flipped. Glasses were broken. Holes were put in metaphorical walls in my mind. Basically, it just alluded to me bitching and moaning while I was at work the whole time.
Burning hot pizza rolls were bitten into, and not a thing was felt because I couldn't go to the show I wanted to. God damn it.
I was dead inside.
Oh, boy. Well, let's talk about a show that you did have the opportunity to go to. I'm talking about Rotting Christ. What was that about?
Oh, that was
6 weeks ago at this point?
I think the most recent show that we went to was... what was that? There was Dying Fetus. That was, like I said, that was supposed to be Undeath, Frozen Soul, Chelsea Grin, Body Snatcher was at that one too, I think, right? And then
Body
Dying
Snatcher
Fetus.
and yeah. That was a stacked card. Holy cow!
That was a really good lineup, and unfortunately, one of the bands that we were looking forward to the most, Undeath, out of New York, was...
Absolutely. I feel like we're basically on a first name basis with Undeath. We've been watching those youngsters come up.
Sure, man.
We were pretty devastated.
I was crushed, and I still remember when we found out at the show, like, we were devastated, and then we were we knew that the show was probably going to be a little delayed at start, because they were the opening act, and unfortunately they had some like trailer issues and they couldn't make it. Everybody was bummed. But then when the dudes in front of us found out, remember the guy with the long blonde hair? When he found out, he was literally dead inside. It was kind of like, why am I even here at this point? Why am I even here? Because it was like his birthday or something, and that was the whole reason why I wanted to go to the show, was Undeath.
You hate to see it.
And I don't blame him, because I was extremely excited to see these guys. I mean, they're coming off of the new album that they just came out with. It's Time to Rise from the Grave, which was it's a great album. I do love that album. I do think Legions of a Different Kind is better than their newest one that came out, but that's not saying anything because they're both fantastic albums.
That's neither here nor rotting over there, but I absolutely agree. Legions of a Different Kind was arguably my album of the year. Funky, unexpected, poignant, timely, classic, instant classic. Love that album. And it was just full of so many sick, groovy beats that you just didn't expect. And I returned to that one probably as much as anything outside of Unto Others last year. Unto Others also put out, formerly Idle Hands, they also put out what I would have said would probably be my album of the year last year. But Legions of a Different Kind, top shelf death metal. And I'm gonna endorse what you're saying, that it's time to rise from the grave. A little bit, just a step below, but I mean, still a fantastic album. And yeah, that kid was gutted when he found out Undeath wasn't going to be there.
I felt terrible because I was like the guy that basically gave him the news. I was just like, son of a bitch. Yeah. I was bummed. But some of the other bands that were there, Frozen Soul, they were the new opener, I guess you could say, for that show. They were really good. I'd never heard of them up until that point. But I thought they did put in a pretty good show.
I definitely enjoyed them, and they have an interesting relationship with the underground, because if to listen to their sound, you could hear so much bolt thrower that it's imitation is the finest flattery, they say, but there's so much bolt thrower in their sound that it's a turnoff for some people. But I've never really related to other people who like look to heavy metal to always be recreating the wheel. I'm okay if a band, follows in the footsteps of their forebears, and yeah, they worship bolt thrower, but they crushed. And we're an inclusive show here, and we care about mental health. I like that the lead singer spent such a fair amount of time just being vulnerable with the crowd about, suicide and depression, and it felt heartfelt when he's letting people know, like, hey, we are here for you. Reach out to us if you need us. That definitely, aside from their crushing sound, got them over with me.
Absolutely. They took a little intermission from their set, as you alluded to, and the lead singer was talking about how some of personal tribulations that he was gone through, and he didn't want anybody else to go through with that, or go through that rather. And he very heartfelt. You could tell he meant it too when he said, like, hey, if you guys need anybody to talk to, if you feel like you don't have any friends or family, we're your family. You're here with us. We're sharing the same energy. That was really heartfelt, and that was really incredible to see, because you don't normally see that kind of stuff at a metal show. You know what I mean? And that was that I agree with you, is that put them over the top for me in terms of winning me over. That was really that meant a bit. That meant a bit.
That coupled with like the post set hanging out with the crowd. I always appreciate a band that's like a band of the people. And to their credit, they Frozen Soul, they hung around the merch area. They talked to everybody who had a moment to talk to them. I remember them, we've reached level 8 on the nerdiness scale of heavy metal. So of course we've got our badass vests on. And I remember the lead singer's taking a moment to appreciate, who we're repping and talking about the bands on our vest. And, that's not stuff you have to do. And I'm not talking about like, these guys they got day jobs. They're not rock stars, but this is stuff you don't have to do as a band. But when you do it, I notice.
It makes a difference. You know what I mean? It's just kind of like when, you meet somebody that you're like a fan of, maybe not necessarily a musician, but say an actor, and they're a total dick. You know what I mean? That's probably going to change your outlook on them and the performances they've taken part in. The same concept applies. If you go to a metal show and you meet the members of a band and they're totally like in it to be with the fans and showing them as much appreciation as we show them, like that bears weight with me. You know what I mean? Like when we got that picture with Undeath.
When you do that
meant a lot to me. Like, I was like, fuck yeah, this is fucking rad.
Hell yeah. If you're going to take a photo with me, if you're going to talk to me about my vest, it's like the mega powers are bonded. The second something like happens.
Yeah.
So that was really cool. And I recall, so we also had Rotting Christ was on. No, that was a different show. I keep on confusing Amorphous.
That was a show previously. But to one last thing on Frozen Soul, they're working on a new album, and I guess Matt Heafy, Trivium guy, the lead singer of Trivium.
Yeah,
I think it's like Matt Heafy. I can't remember his last name, but Matt, I know his first name is Matt. He's actually producing.
I don't know him from Adam.
He's producing the next Frozen Soul album for them. So I was like, oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I don't know how to feel about that. I hope they keep their sound. I hope it's murky and just because right now when I think about their sound, I think about like a bloated, fetid corpse slowly moving down an August river. Yeah. And just like I want to keep that murky, grimy, disgusting,
putrid
filth. And so I hope they don't get too clean. I can't really imagine they would let that happen, but I want like that. I want that production where it's that cavernous. Mm-hmm. It sounds like a corpse with the skin just sloughing off, exposing like a jellied eye. I want that kind of sound from a band like them. So let's hope they keep that. And yeah, I'll keep supporting Frozen Soul apps. And also, this doesn't matter, but quality also will get you points with your merch. God damn, I put on the little hoodie I bought from them, and it felt like I was getting a little cashmere sweater.
Dude.
Like, it was so comfortable and so soft. I'm like, I guess I'm never washing this motherfucker because this is soft as hell.
Oh, wait, no, I didn't get anything from Frozen Soul. Different band that was also on the lineup, Body Snatcher. They were kind of a dark horse for me on many levels, as they were with you. Maybe not so much, but Body Snatcher is kind of a core band.
Well, this is where I'll talk shit about a core band and be a complete hypocrite at the show. And well, you mentioned they might have been a dark horse for me. Like, here's me talking shit. Like, they weren't even a horse for me going into the show. Like, I had completely no familiarity with them. Same with Chelsea Grin. But as you know, these core bands, whether it's deathcore, hardcore, even if I don't reach for them at home, at a live show, they fucking rip my face off. And I was so impressed with both of those acts.
I have always been a Chelsea Grin fan. Like, I've always loved them. I've been listening to them forever. But like I said, Body Snatcher, didn't really know anything about them. I think I listened to like maybe one or two songs a day of the show just to kind of see like what I'm getting into. I really liked them. I enjoyed them. They were really fun. Their merch is very comfortable. I know this has no bearing on the show performance at all, but I bought that Terminator shirt where he's asking if I have a soul or whatever. It's
you did buy that, huh?
Yeah,
I forgot about that. Wow, okay.
Fantastically comfortable. Fantastically comfortable.
Like, I got something in the fucking parking lot on that show. Do you mind if I take a moment for a diatribe about the merch? In that whole show. Look, I'm not going to name any names, and I don't want to have a reputation as coming into this show with like the dirt sheets. Whoever's doing the merch for Chelsea Grin, oh my god, rudest goddamn merch I've ever run into. Like, I always take care of the merch person. I'm like, I'd like to get that shirt in the top right that looks like kind of like a traditional American tattoo, and she's like, I don't know which one that is. I'm like, I'm pointing at it. I'm like, she won't even turn around to look at it. Like, and I made. For any look, I don't want to paint with broad brushstrokes, but I made a fatal male mistake in that interaction because I dared to ask her. I said, "Are you okay?"
Yeah.
She just looked at me, and I don't care how heavy any of those bands were. In that moment, I felt more fear than I would at any point listening to a Dying Fetus song. I got my merch. And I normally throw at least $5. I think I gave her 47 cents.
Yeah,
I
don't blame you though. That
was outrageous.
Girl was rude as hell. Like,
I fucking if I want service like that, straight up, I'll go to a Wendy's and I'll try to pay in pennies. That's usually the kind of service I would get there.
Just terrible.
Rough stuff. Like, well, come on now.
Whose merch guy wasn't a dick? The Dying Fetus dude.
He was awesome. Dying Fetus dude's merch guy is awesome.
We wanted to have him on the show, and unfortunately, we couldn't stick around because ride situations or whatever. But we were trying to get a hold of him so we could figure out what was. Try to get a hold of him or whatever. Something like that. That's what you're trying to do is... Yeah,
he had a really, typical name. I can't remember it now, but it was... I searched on Instagram high and low to try to find him, and what a missed opportunity. Next time they come through, if I get a chance to talk to him, I'll have a card in my hand, make sure we hook it up. And in the off chance that anybody ever hears this besides, our immediate friends, and in the off chance that one of those people is the merch dude from Dying Fetus, just know you fucking wailed. You were the opposite of that experience we had that we just talked about. And on top of that, I just appreciate his candor. Like, this is not a political show, but that being said, we saw Dying Fetus on the heels of Roe versus Wade, being overturned. So I was able to have a really interesting conversation with him about, wow, I can buy a shirt by Dying Fetus where a woman has a corpse falling out of her, against the juxtaposition of what's going on nationally. This feels like a moment.
Absolutely.
And me and the merch guy, we talked about that. We had, I should have bought him a beer. I should have bought him a beer. Next time he comes through, I will. Fantastic. Can't say enough good things about him or Dying Fetus, who always brought it. Legends.
That was probably one of the most memorable shows that I've been to since you and I have started going to concerts. Like besides the first time of seeing Undeath, that Dying Fetus one was fucking bonkers. It was so good. It was so good.
I will admit, and this is always what happens to me, especially when I'm with you, because you bring so much goddamn energy, and it's just infectious to be around, that we have a tendency, we blow our wads early in the show, because that's how it goes. And so by the time Dying Fetus came on, I was like a semi-Dying Fetus myself at that point, and freshly severed umbilical cord wrapped around my neck. I had nothing left in the tank, if for those of you who have had the distinct pleasure of not going to see a show at the Skyway Theater in Minneapolis. Boy, I'm going to have a reputation for just burying people, but Skyway Theater, man, this thing is on literally a sloped concrete floor. And when you're 22, a sloped concrete floor maybe doesn't sound like that big of a deal. But once you're a crustacean like I am, you can't do that shit for 5 hours. So I'm sitting here, you got to look cool, and I've got my Doc Martens with no arch support, my flat-footed body trying to stand on that shit for hours. And by the time Dying Fetus came on, I just didn't have a lot left in the tank. And I could feel myself wanting to rock, and I didn't have it.
The problem with Skyway Theater, and you're not
the problems.
Yeah, let's start there. Problems.
Let's pluralize that word.
Let's break it down real quick, okay? And don't feel bad for shitting on the Skyway Theater, because it's terrible. It is fucking terrible.
Oh, I mean, how could you feel bad for shitting on them when they're a toilet? Like, that's like the appropriate thing to do.
First things first, the sloped concrete floor, which you talked about. You're not much older than me, but I'm 32, and my shit was fucking like on fire, and I too am also flat-footed as they come. I was in the military, as you know, so my knees and my shoulders are fucked. So, thrashing about, doing pits on a sloped concrete floor like that is fucking terrible. And then that leads me to the next point. Doing a mosh pit on a sloped concrete floor is asking
Jesus
for
Christ.
trouble. Are you insane? Especially when somebody spills a beer at the very top of the auditorium, and then it slowly trickles down like a stream of potential pain, just waiting for somebody to slip on it.
Yeah.
Like a regrettable banana peel.
When it slowly trickles down like that piss trough, 15-degree angle that the Skyway uses. Someone should come in there sometime. I would never do this. Don't get me wrong, but just the imagery of someone pouring like a bottle of olive oil down that ramp right before a band comes on. My God,
asking for trouble.
Yeah, Skyway just
don't have shows there anymore.
I always think of it this way. Don't have. It's dark. It's dank. You got to cross through legions of people who are downright mentally unstable or on God knows what kind of drug, just milling about on the street. And don't get me wrong, I want those people to get services, but I also don't want to walk through a fucking legion of them to get to the show. So it's like you take your life into your hands before you go in the venue, and then when you're in the venue, you damn near die. So it's just by the end of
you're fucked if you do, fucked if you don't.
You're fucky. They keep on talking about an opioid crisis in America, and I know it's a real thing. By the end of that show, I was in so much pain. I wanted to be part of that crisis.
Wanted to be involved. It's so bad. It's so bad. Oh God, just
outrageous. The last thing I'll say, and this is maybe a distinction that Skyway could be proud of, but if I had to give Minnesota an enema, I'd stick it in Skyway, and that would be the appropriate place to do it. So.
That place just got to get shut down. All right, enough of shitting on the Skyway, because we all know it's terrible.
What are you listening to lately? What are you jamming out? Is there anything standing out to you, either new or old?
Bitch,
something
I was
bold?
just about to ask you that, but
Icy and cold.
So lately, what I've been listening to, Unto Others. I know you've said this before, and that you find yourself keep going back to them, and I am right there with you. I listen to Unto Others probably at least twice a week, at least. I can't get enough of them, and that's one band that I am super excited about to see like where they go with their career so far. What else have I been listening to? Inaugural, that's another Minnesota.
Minnesota-based band, absolutely.
I've been listening to their newer album, Equinox Vigil, that came out a little while ago. Just a straight ass ripper. If you haven't listened to it, I would highly recommend. I can't get enough of it. I've listened to that one a lot lately.
Yeah, I both those bands are exciting. And Unto Others, you're right. I'm a dedicated fanboy at this point, and I'm not unabashed about it. And Gabe Franco, their lead singer du jour, I mean, the dude's voice has such a unique spot in today's metal scene. Like the way he sounds and he croons a little bit. Like this dude sings and croons a little. Like he's got sort of shades of Glenn Danzig at time. I mean, the band's sound is Sisters of Mercy meets just rock and heavy metal. I'm such a mark for them. I love it. And they act like rock stars, and I like that. The moment doesn't seem too big for them.
I don't know how to like classify like you alluded to the lead singer. He has such a distinct voice, and compared to anything that you hear right now, it just sticks. It's
fantastic.
Sticks out, and it just kind of plops a little seed in your head, and then you're just like, "Fuck! I just gotta get more of it. I gotta get more of it." And I want fucking more of it.
And I wish give me all the Unto Others as you can. And I actually, it's unfortunate that they got caught up in some kind of copyright situation. They previously were known as Idle Hands, so they had to change their name. But regardless of that name shift, that the music has remained as strong as ever. Just like this, it's a perfect blend of goth and heavy metal. And I like both genres a lot. So I just think like this, in a just world, they will go straight to the top and they'll sit there for a very long time. And that's what I hope happens. And so anytime I get a chance to recommend a young band to anyone who's into anything with guitar-based sounds, fucking listen to Unto Others. They will not let you down.
And I've recommended that to a couple of people at work, and they've really jived with it, especially the older gentleman that went to Municipal Waste. He's really dug them, and I'm glad, because I want these guys to get the recognition they deserve, because they are going places. They've been places, but they're also going to places. I tell you that much.
Man, I so hope so, and they deserve. I'll give them all the financial and emotional support I can. So, love what you're listening to. What else you spinning over there? Anything else?
Let's see. Let me look at my the new Haunt album too. I've been listening to that a lot. Also,
is that beautiful? I forget the name of it. I've got a buddy who has been singing the praises of that album left and right, and I love Haunt. They're a band who I can't believe I'm saying this. He's almost too prolific for me to keep up with. Like every 8 months, there's a new Haunt album, and I'm like, I love them. Can't wait to see them live. COVID robbed them of me a couple years ago. They were slated to come through with Satan and another traditional band. I want to say it was Night Demon, who I also adore.
They just came out with a new album too.
Oh wow, that one flew under my radar.
Yeah. So the Haunt album that just came out is Windows of Your Heart. That's the one I've been listening to a lot lately, and then
Windows of Your Heart, huh?
And then the new Night Demon album. Year of the Demon, that came out in March of this year. And if I'm not mistaken, I think it might be just like a collection of unreleased singles, if I am remembering correctly. Not 100% sure on that though.
Well, shit, I'll definitely have to get on top of that. Over here, I've got a couple of positive reviews, and I got a kind of a mixed review that I think is going to hit some of my co-hosts hard in the chest. So
I'm prepared.
We'll see here. But the first one, I'll start on a positive. You prepare yourself. You start clenching that butt cheek right now. But I'm gonna take you back in time. So, for our new listeners, which would be everybody, since this is our first episode. And by the way, if you hear us, if this format seems a little freeform, we're figuring our shit out. We're trying not to type. We're trying not to sneeze. We're trying not to fart on this first broadcast. We're trying, period. But I have a massive, just ridiculous hoard of heavy metal CDs and records. And once in a while, I have to go to the vault and bring a flashlight and tie a rope around my waist and tell my woman, if you don't hear from me in 2 hours, come check the closet because I might have fallen through. And recently I pulled an oldie but a goodie out, and I've been really loving it. But Cancer is a band from England back in the day. They're part of this original wave of death metal that rose to prominence in the late 80s, early 90s. And actually, in their case, I think they're more early 90s. They first kind of reached people's listening ears when they came out with Death Shall Rise. I know they had an album before that, but for me, that's where they really hit their stride. And recently, I've been listening to The Sins of Mankind, which they put out in 1993, and it was reissued recently, remastered, and I finally got around to listening to it. I have been spinning it nonstop. Can't give it enough high praise. And the interesting thing about this album is it comes right around that time when death metal seemed poised to take like the next step into the mainstream, but in actuality was about to fall off for a few years. And so this is one of those last albums in my mind that really cements that first wave of death metal before it kind of went into a transitionary period. If you get a chance, Cancer, The Sins of Mankind fucking crushes. Excellent riffs, songs with lyrics that absolutely make you think about mental illness, which I always appreciate hearing. So I've been spinning that like crazy. A more recent release is by man, I owe this to you, and I don't know if I should thank you or something else, but I've been listening to way more power metal lately.
You're fucking welcome.
Oh my God. Somehow I'm listening to power metal again. And this Swedish band, and fuck, some of these bands really need a PR person to sit them down when they name themselves and say, is that really what you want to name yourself? Like,
is this where you want to go with that? Is this where you want to go?
Now, if you're familiar with these boys and you think it's a good name, forgive me. You can label me, brandish me a stupid Midwesterner. I'll accept it and wear it with pride. But Vionity or Vianity, I don't fucking know. Like if I'm asking myself how to pronounce your name, but the album title, Elements of Power. Now these boys are out of Sweden, and I find myself returning to this album over and over because something about it's so sugar-coated. The choruses are extremely catchy, and it seems to be somewhat of a concept album. So if you like big shot. The Power album is about fantasy shit. Well, yeah, this is about fantasy shit. What? If you asked me what the story was about, I wouldn't be able to say. I know there's some shit about power stones in there. There's some kind of quest happening. Gotta check them out. If you're a fan of Hammerfall, if you're a fan of Halloween, and you know what? Here's the thing. They have solid production. So it's power metal, and this is what I always want from a power metal album. It still has some bite. It still feels like it's a metal album, as opposed to some of this other shit that can get some of this Luca Turilli kind of like so flowery that I get to the point where I'm like, what am I even listening to at this point? Now, for those of you with bated breath, are you ready for my contentious little thought here?
Cautiously, just cautious.
Man, I have been in company with people say that this was, one of the best albums they've ever heard, that it deserves to be in everyone's top 10 list, and it's genre breaking. And I have loved this band in a live setting. I've seen them twice, loved them twice. I've seen them with you once. We both shat the bed over how good they were. I'm talking about Rivers of Nihil, and the album is the work.
Oh my God!
Now, I knew that was going to sting. And I don't want to do that to you. Like, I feel like I can see the life go out of your eyes, but here's the thing. Now, there's not things I can't... There are going to be things I'll tell you that I love about this album. Like, I think it's daring. It's super melodic at times. But my God, for every moment that feels like exultant and steeped in texture, there's like 4 minutes of just meandering sort of bullshit that doesn't sound even like heavy metal. Now, I don't need my music to be heavy metal to like it, but I think there was one track where at a certain point, even my partner looked at me. She's like, this is not what you would normally listen to, is it? I'm like, no, I don't know what I'm listening to. So that album, like, it just really lost me towards the back half. The front half has some bona fide, just really epic melodic moments that even made me think of like, wow, this is almost radio friendly. But yeah, I want to love that album. I love them live. I don't like the work by Rivers of Nihil. I did not enjoy it very much.
Oh man, that just stings a little bit, man.
Cuts.
Kind of just leaves.
It has its moments.
Yeah, just
There's a particular song, you know, they're at their best to me when like they're bringing that sax in, and I don't mind them being
the
noodly.
satanic sax.
I don't mind them to say, I like that, and they get grimy at times, and this is not a gent thing. I'm not a huge gent fan. It's not that they don't have riffs, which I would say they basically don't have riffs. It's just like, it seemed too all over the place. One minute it was the band I kind of am used to and am enjoying, and the next it's like I couldn't wait for the record to end. So anyway, I should probably offer some more objective thoughts about what I didn't like about the sound, but it just felt inconsistent. The highs were really high and the lows were really low.
And I mean, factually you're wrong, but I can kind of see where you're coming from. They did try to do a little bit more experimentation on this album than previous albums, and I agree with that. And sometimes that's not always well received, and I can understand that. But I thought this album was fantastic. There was some stinkers. Like I'm not saying that like every album has some stinkers, but not every album, but most albums do.
This could be a situation where its reputation preceded it, it's like you hear something about a movie enough times being amazing and then you go
like, what
see
the
it.
hell?
Hard to live up. And I saw this reviewed well by a lot of the blogs I follow, and there's been a lot of opinions from people I trust who have really loved it. But for me, I think I'll probably reach for Monarchy or even Where Owls Know My Name the next time I want to listen to them. And I'm still going to see them live in a live setting. My God, are they fantastic.
If anybody out there hasn't seen Rivers of Nihil live, and you get the opportunity, do not pass that up, because their live setting is something to behold. The stagemanship, the quality of show is just on another level. It really is. Like they perform the shit.
They definitely pull you in.
Absolutely. They've
got a hypnotic sort of stage feel.
They start off a little atmospheric, just to kind of get you, ooh, what's this all about? And then they lure you in a little bit more with the fog and some more heavier stuff. And then just right when you're in the palm of their hand, they fucking crush it with some sweet ass riffs and just breakdowns, and then they make you feel better with the satanic sax. I don't know about you, but I always feel better after satanic sax.
I'm always a fan of a saxophone. Now, you and I have talked about this, about how the saxophone is by our generation and previous generation, it's an underappreciated party instrument. It needs to be seen more. You give me like a grimy saxophone in like a 1950s rock and roll song, and when that sax comes on, I'm going to lose my fucking mind. And I like it. It's not something you hear a lot in heavy metal, but when done tastefully as they do, it's quite effective. So, that's kind of like my lukewarm review of the work. The highs are really high. A couple of those moments will stick with me for long after I've listened to the album, but I just don't find myself wanting to come back to it. But can I offer you sort of a lighter side of heavy metal moment?
I am always receptive to your tutelage, sir.
Well, we're deep. At this point, we're deep in the back half of the nostalgia fever pitch for the 1980s that the modern pop culture is embracing. Like, it's part of the modern zeitgeist at this point, the 80s. Had I known, I was just a little kid, but had I known the 80s would be like the apex of Western civilization, I would have tried to stick around a little bit longer in them. But luckily, so many movies and shows and even like fashion are embracing what's old is new again. And, I kind of fell off with this show after the second season, but Stranger Things apparently in this fourth season, as far as I've been told, and the memes that I'm exposed to, is having a lot of love for heavy metal. This character Eddie Munster, I want to say, is that his
Munson,
name? Or
yeah.
oh yeah, Eddie Munster is a whole different guy. That's from the Munson. Eddie Munson. So I might have to sit down and watch Stranger Things because I've been seeing the memes and I had to check out what all the fuss was about. And I saw that scene where he is shredding, and apparently the kid played a lot of that as well on his own, but he was just shredding some Metallica Master of Puppets up on that rooftop while a bunch of demons are floating around. If you're a fan of the show, I don't know any of the characters at this point, but it was badass imagery, and I like that they're kind of like breaking the fourth wall and winking at the fans like, yeah, we know this is metal as fuck. And like, after seeing that scene, man, I had to break out some of my Metallica vinyl and just crush it on a Friday night with an IPA. And it's amazing how much time has passed since that run of golden albums they put out. And those first 4 albums, I'll always say, what band has had 4 albums like Metallica's first 4 albums?
I can't think
My
of
God.
any, like not in recent memory anyway.
Just an untouchable run.
And we just talked about this a couple days ago that like early Metallica, like when they came out, they were in a league entirely their own. Like, don't get me wrong, there was other thrash bands out there, but like they were on another level. Like their first album, Kill 'Em All. Like, are you?
So
my
fresh.
God,
So
it's
fresh.
insane.
It still sounds, it's as energetic now as it was then. I talked about Frozen Soul, being like a rotten, bloated corpse going down the river slowly. Well, that's the opposite of Kill 'Em All, which to me is as fresh as a mint julep. It still sounds so relevant even now. It's punchy as fuck. So, it's just cool that Stranger Things, it's like, here we are 30 years later and there are these, young kids finding out about a band like Metallica and embracing them. And I love it. I'm not one of these people that's whatever. I was reading there's a certain amount of backlash amongst like, the basement dwelling fans of Metallica's camp who are kind of like taken aback. Like, well, where have you guys been the last 30 years? And you know what? Fuck that. If there's a new young kid that wants to get into Metallica or heavy metal and a show like Stranger Things can do it, hell yeah. And so that's my lighter side of heavy metal moment. I'm so tickled by something like this taking over TikTok. Like, who the fuck would have ever thought that kids would be doing like their own little short videos on Master of Puppets? That's wild.
I do love that. I don't dabble in the TikTok, but I go on Reddit and people post like TikTok videos on Reddit all the time. And I have seen a million of those, Eddie Munson challenges or whatever the hell it's called, where, people are like, trying to play, Master of Puppets or other Metallica songs that they've been exposed to because of this show. And I'm right there with you in saying that, like, if that's going to bring up the next generation of metal fans, or just even exposing people to a new genre of music that they've never thought they might enjoy, like, that's fantastic.
Exactly. Well, when this came out, I'm just taking a stab at this. Like, I'm guessing it was like around 83 or 84 that Kill 'Em All came out, but whatever that was, doesn't matter. But the point is this. When it first came out, it rubbed probably a lot of the average listener of rock and roll the wrong way. Like, that was heavy as shit. It's still heavy, don't get me wrong. But now 30 years of percolating, these people have heard heavy metal riffs here and there, and I do think you're right. I think there's a contingency of people who are now ready and open to hear heavy metal the same way we've all heard heavy metal for years. We've always heard this really innovative, fun, powerful music, whereas other people have heard noise. And I think these moments where you shove things like Master of Puppets into a show that 30 million Americans are watching, it's going to mean more heavy metal fans. And I'm here for it. I love seeing it. So that's super cool. And I hear that there's other things in there too. Like, I'm acutely aware that there's been some Iron Maiden references. So, hey, fuck yeah, best metal band ever. If they're showing up in a fucking huge show, yeah,
I'm here for it. Yeah, absolutely. Well, you got anything else to chime in or rap about?
I think those are all the druidic thoughts I have for this Doomly Sunday afternoon. And I think if you're a new acolyte to the doomed that we offer you, then join us every 17 months when we record a new episode. No, Druids of Doom, man. We're just getting started. If you're here for the first time, like we're here for the first time, I'm hoping that you know you're joining a brotherhood of heavy metal fans, a sisterhood of heavy metal fans, a fraternity, a sorority, however you identify. We're here for you, and we hope you're here for us, and we're going to figure this shit out together. But Franny, that's all I've got, and I'm so glad that we were able to chat. Is that all you've got?
I just kind of want to echo what you said, this being our first episode. Just stick along for the ride. We're learning as we go. Stay tuned to social media outlets, Instagram, Facebook. We'll get that stuff up and running.
Some twerk videos.
Oh yeah,
I'll
twerk on the TikTok trend stuff. That's what we're here for. Content, baby. No, just we're happy that if anybody's listening out there, we appreciate you. We love you. Well, till next time. We'll catch you guys later. We'll keep you posted on the next episodes of Druids of Doom.